Hi everyone, my name is Jakue López. I'm a partner engineer at YouTube Music, but I'm here to moderate this panel today. So I won't be talking too much, more asking questions. We have 4 fantastic panelists today here, starting from, I won't do much intros because they're going to introduce themselves shortly, but we have Ignacio from Ada, Sara from YouTube, Simon, aka Paco from YouTube as well, and Patricia. So yeah, we want to be talking about the dark side of releases, what to do and especially what not to do when you're releasing music, which is hopefully something that you can relate to up to a certain degree. So yeah, I don't usually like when panelists introduce, or the moderator introduces the panelists, so we're going to do a very quick round of intros. If you can say where you're from, what do you do, and also what kind of music do you like. So, Ignacio.
So, hi, I'm from Madrid. I work in ADA for the distribution company from Wagner Music Group, and I take care of the marketing and commercial relations with DSPs, most of all, and music, I guess, alt pop, for example.
Sara?
Hello everyone, my name is Sara. I'm also a partner engineer as Jakue, and I work with the label side. We basically are the bridge between the product team and the label or publishers in the industry. What music I like? I like, Ignacio's laughing because we are going to say that we like Pangora. You don't know the band, you should. But I like indie music.
Yo, hey everyone, I'm Simon. I think I'm the only non-Spaniard on this panel. So I'm originally from Germany, and I am responsible for artist relations at YouTube Music for the Southern European markets as well as the German-speaking territories. So I work directly with the artists and their management teams and also the labels. So that's why I have the beautiful privilege of especially working with these 2 beautiful people a lot. And so yeah, what kind of music do I listen to? Basically anything that, I'm going to be philosophical, anything that makes me emotional.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's right.
So that's,
Nice.
Most of the times that's a Bon Iver song that makes me cry for days. And with that, I'm giving over to you.
Yes. Well, I'm Patricia. I'm half Spanish, half American. I work for MagnusMedia, which is a Miami-based company I work in the management and booking division. I've been working there for 6 years almost. And regarding music, I listen basically everything, but mostly electronic music. That's my thing.
Okay, good. And I have a question for the audience. I'm not going to ask you about your music because that's going to be a bit messy, but I would like you to raise your hand if you have ever struggled with a music release. And I'm doing this because of the lights, otherwise I don't see anything.
Some have
Raise a
that.
few hands.
Some of them.
Some of
Yeah,
them.
many actually. Should we also?
More than I expected. Okay, good. I probably look like an idiot doing this, but I swear I don't see you otherwise. Good. So we don't. I like this because we didn't even really say like what a music release is, or like we didn't go over definitions or whatnot. So I guess people pretty much assume what that is. But I wanted to ask you, Sara, in particular, like why should we care about music releases, and especially what happens if you don't care, or like if you don't really pay much attention, what can go south?
Well, there are different things that could happen. I think the first one is like if you don't care at all, maybe you don't get paid after, or the artist doesn't get paid. Second, maybe people cannot actually find the release, or maybe they cannot even listen to it, or maybe it's not nowhere there. So you might be releasing music and like no one might be listening to it. And also, it might also happen that like you as an artist end up releasing a track in someone else's profile or channel if your metadata is wrong or similar things. So what it could happen, many things can go wrong, and this will affect the artist for sure, the label, everyone involved, management, DSPs. So yeah.
Sounds important.
Sounds important.
Yeah.
Look like.
You said something which is like someone not getting paid. Like how can you tell us a bit more about that? Like what would that be?
I know what you are asking this.
For some reason.
I think in order to get paid, for example, from a DSP, and I'm pretty sure all of you know this, like you have like two sides. You have the label side and you have the publishing side. And you need the metadata right, and you need to register the track in the publishers in order to get all the reporting right. Because if you don't get that right, or you don't have the right information, you will never get paid.
You said metadata, right?
The metadata, yeah.
Who knows what metadata is? There are way more
Almost
hands.
everyone, yeah.
Good.
Basically, data around the track, all around it. Artists, songwriters, yeah, label, everything around it. Title of the track, album, IPC, yeah, UPC.
And you said something about planning, so I want to ask Ignacio, like from a distributor perspective, and I know you have a personal battle with this as well, so can you tell us a little bit more, like, on the audience, like, what do you think about, like, life cycle of a release and how planning plays a role or not there?
It does.
How come?
So once you have already produced, mix and master the release, I think the first thing you need to do is plan whatever actions are you gonna activate for the release. Super important to get involved with all teams, with all the parts of the release, like PR, marketing, activation, socials, and everything. And for the distributor, where I am, give all the info you can, but like in a short text. It's not like a DSPs already receive like thousands of tracks every day. So if you wanna have the best placement, you have to be concrete, and in 2 sentences, you need to tell a lot of things. So that's key, I guess.
So planning and good communication?
Yeah.
That's what I get from your, okay, good. And from your point of view, Patri, from a management?
Well, I think as Ignacio was saying, timing is the most important thing. And that said, it's really important to have like a built up a strategy from the beginning, which means the artist having the product ready in time, if you have already a date settled. And then you also have to give time the platform, to give them time to work the release and to give them time to, to listen to it and to plan in ahead a marketing campaign. And also if it's an album or, an EP or whatever, it's also really important to, because of timings, if you want to do press as well. So for me, timing is the most important word during a release.
Not only for marketing activations, but for avoiding mapping issues, like Sara was saying. So ops team can check which profiles are you sending the music in DSPs.
Yeah. Like for me, the best is to have everything like 1 month in advance, at least 1 month. If it's a release of a single or something like that. If it's an album, you should have like 3 months at least in advance, like everything ready, to be able to create a marketing and strategy campaign,
To the DSPs, but
Exactly.
in an ops perspective, usually 3 to 4 weeks is enough to check.
3 to 4 weeks,
Even, yeah.
operationally.
I think from an operational point of view, what you said is like to avoid leaks, to make sure that the track is in the right channel and has the right metadata.
And in case there's any changes, that you
Yeah,
have,
correct.
like enough time to correct
Yeah.
those changes and to make those changes
Yeah.
effectively.
The day before is definitely not enough.
Yeah, that
for
was
the
going to be my next question. Is like, how do you deal with an artist calling you today saying, I want my track to be released tonight?
No, don't pick up the phone.
Well, from my point of view, I'm the one that has to struggle to fight or discuss with the label and with the, not usually with the platforms, but sometimes as well. But I think that changes usually come from the artist. So that's like the main point. If the artist has everything clear, like when and what they want to release. And in case there's any change, I usually ask them to think it like 4 and 5 times. And especially if it's a change of, I want to change the track, or I want to change the video, I want to change the track list, the order. It's really, really important that, like to do that in advance and to think about it like 5 times at least.
And if it's 2 days before, maybe wait
Exactly.
until it releases. Because if you
Exactly.
change like 48 hours before, it may not happen
Exactly.
for the release. Depends on the
100%.
DSP.
Yeah. I mean, we as DSPs, we do like a little bit of lead time, especially when it comes to let's say, playlisting, we would love to have at least, when it comes to releases, like singles or albums, at least like two weeks before, so we can pitch it enough and create covers and these kind of beautiful things. If we want to do an actual like bigger campaign around it, we do tend to be a little bit slow sometimes, so we need even more lead time. So as you said, like at least a month or maybe 6 weeks or something like this, depending. You guys know it best, but so yeah, last minute changes we do not like as much. We try everything to work our way around it, but sometimes it may be a little bit too late for us.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an engineer, so I think planning comes in my DNA somehow, but I understand that we are dealing here with creative people, and creative people may not have that much in their, some do, no? But some others will be like, I don't care about your planning, I just want to release it, no? But I guess the point here is like, that has consequences.
It's okay for some artists. It's okay to release music this way. It sometimes happens to an accident and it goes well, but
But sometimes it doesn't.
Well, that,
most of the time.
you made it very easy for me to go into the next question, Ignacio, which is, you said accident. So I'm going to be asking questions about things that went south or like moving forward, but I want to start with a very short one for you and for Patri, which is, and you don't have to say names, I know this can be contentious, so keep it as neutral as possible. But the latest release that you had that had an issue, can you explain a little bit?
I don't have issues.
You don't have issues? Okay, next question.
No, but I guess if you have any leak and the artist wants to move the track, the single to release earlier, it's not a good idea sometimes, because of what I was saying about the DSPs receiving all the tracks. It depends. For instance, Spotify is one of the latest in making those changes. YouTube is one of the first, I think, the first one, the best one. And I think that's something that has happened to me, and it's not.
So track leaking and the artist saying, release,
Yeah, you
and
have
then
to.
it's just...
So Patricia needs to calm down the artist.
Yes, that would be my job.
And
Lots of-
sometimes those leaks are good for engagement and for awareness.
But they're avoidable also. You can
Of
avoid
course,
them if
of
you
course.
send the track
Well,
to
sometimes
DSP
no,
in
it-
advance. You know what I
We
mean?
Yeah.
will talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
I think it's like, what can we do, no?
Like we usually manage those leaks with content protection and everything, all these departments, but most of the time are because of the artist sending through WhatsApp the audio.
Yes, exactly. And, well, I have a few stories here, but for example, I had an artist that released an album, a time ago, and decided to change the cover like the night before the release of the album. And it was that type of artist to which you can say no. So like 12 hours before the release, we were literally trying to change the cover. And of course, it came out, like we had like 2 different covers in different platforms. And the artist was mad about it. And it was like, hey, this was totally, like expected. So that's something that you can avoid if you had, if you had thought about it a bit earlier, or maybe you can save one of the covers for, I don't know, a deluxe version or whatever. But I think that kind of last-minute changes can really affect the release and the whole strategy.
You shouldn't be modifying any info, the metadata or whatever in the release week. For example, Apple Music, if you have like a time release, like the single is gonna be released in a specific time, Apple Music blocks the release, so you cannot change any, you cannot swap the audio or the master or whatever, the cover or any info until it releases. So the cover is gonna be the
previous one.
Yeah, the previous
So you can't change it in that case.
You can, but it's not gonna be effective until it releases in Apple Music.
And sometimes changes, they come effective, like after the release. So maybe that change, it's not going to be meaningful for the release. So I think that's also something that you have to think about before deciding to make any change.
I have another question for the audience, which is, before I ask who struggled with that release, but now I would like to ask you, who has noticed that that release was having issues or like weird things on when you're consuming music and you say, oh, this looks odd. Anybody has ever seen anything like that?
Not many hands.
Not many.
Yeah.
No, some there.
Some.
Okay.
Well, looks like doing a good job then.
No.
Mitigate.
No, but it's not like that important. No, I think for sometimes I think.
I think sometimes we're also very close to these things, right, as everyone in here. So we're a different audience to notice slight
I guess
discrepancies.
like a Swiftie could.
Yeah,
not
they
do
probably
that.
they. Oh yeah.
But
They will think it's a hint or something.
It's a feature, not
It's
a
a
bug.
feature,
No?
exactly.
Yes,
It's a
that's
feature,
my
not a
idea.
bug.
feature.
It's a marketing strategy.
It's a
Yeah.
marketing strategy. Do
That's
those
like
things,
you know.
do those mistakes, from your point of view, become
course.
features and not bugs? Of course.
I think it's you say you did plan that, but
Yeah,
you didn't.
exactly. It's always like a word, a thing to say. It was part of the strategy.
But any mistake that ended up, besides attributing the merit, that any mistake that actually was a mistake that turned out like positively that you could remember?
I haven't done that, but I guess somebody does.
Me neither. I think that only happens, like a few times, like.
Yeah,
that's
once in a lifetime. No?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. In general, it's just F-ups.
Exactly.
Makes sense. So I'm interested in hearing from you, Simon, more from someone that works with artists, but from a platform perspective. We heard before from Ignacio from a distributor and from Patricia from a management perspective. Like, what do you think? Like, what are the areas where someone should pay attention, or what are the areas especially that can go wrong when releasing or preparing the releasing phase?
I mean, a lot of things already have been said, but as you guys all know, like the music releases, like everything in the industry revolves around it. So there's many different puzzle pieces coming together, many different stakeholders. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong. But I think a few areas where, at least from a platform point of view, like a content platform like YouTube, as you said before, planning or like timeline. A lot of the times, it's a common mistake that the release starts with the release of the single, with the release of the music video. And then oftentimes you get the feedback that, the video's not performing as well, it's a bit underwhelming. It's because YouTube, again, we kind of need some time to warm up, so you need to work it like other social media platforms. You got to start like 2 weeks before, 3, 4, 5 weeks before, engage, warm up the channel, these kind of things, and that's often forgotten. What could be something else? We have content strategy as well. Like, as I said, like you need to engage on YouTube, and oftentimes there's just not enough content, or content is not ready in time. That's one that I hear a lot, when music videos are just not ready. But also, especially, one of the things that I see the most, or one of the mistakes being made, I want to say mistakes, is that there's no continuation of the content strategy after release. Like, we drop everything after release, everything goes radio silent, and that's kind of when you lose the momentum of the release, when you lose the opportunity to keep growing your channel and keep the channel at a good level for when the next release is coming. One of the things, and you can speak to that as well 100%, is like communication, I think, especially between DSPs, when DSPs, artists, managements, labels are involved, and there's partnerships. For marketing or whatever, you have different expectations, different deliverables, and sometimes if you don't have open lines of communication with everyone, then things might get lost in translation, and they're sometimes just like, things are not working out the way you might want them to be. And one that's also something that we also, I'm sure, tend to see a lot is just from an operational point of view, a lot of things can go wrong. The basics from, just delivering the song properly, as you said, but also just have access to your YouTube channel. Like, still have your email ready, or like the same the same phone number connected to the email, so you can do two-step verification. All these things tend to happen like in the last minute. It's like, I actually can't access my channel anymore. So having that in order, and I'm guessing it's the same for, like, let's say TikTok, Instagram, any other platform, have your personal accounts or your accounts up and running and functionally. I think these are, for me, the most important areas, but also the areas where I see the most hiccups and obstacles at times.
And it's all artist related.
And not always.
Not always. We get these questions from the labels. It's like, hey, we don't know how to. We lost the access to the channel. Like, the artist doesn't remember either. Like,
exactly.
And they both had access.
The thing with content that he was saying is basically because a lot of artists, when when a track or an album is released, they're already thinking on the next step. So it's hard for them, I think, to keep, like tabs or to keep creating content for that release that for them, was, like months ago and in their head because they created that track or whatever like a year ago.
100% also understand that there's a lot of, you work from release to release, and then YouTube now, like we have shorts and all kinds of different tools. Like it's something on top now that you need to do.
Exactly.
So like artists and you're all already like have to play towards so many different platforms. So I totally understand that this is, just something you need to do on top. So, we always just say basically recycle all the content that you have. It's always better to do nothing, to do something than nothing. And it's just about basically, because the way the platform works is just it needs signals constantly. So it's just not in the artist's favor to drop everything, because then the algorithm gets less signals and then everything kind of like falls asleep. And then when you come to the next release that you were thinking about, it's not going to be performing as well, and everyone's a bit disappointed, which I totally get and understand.
I was in another panel before upstairs in Mirador where I was sharing with an artist, and she made Susan made a very interesting comment, which was they're not calling us artists anymore; they're calling us content creators. And partially is true. I mean, if you think about it from a YouTube ecosystem, like YouTube talks about creators, and that's the language we use internally. But like we have artists and we have songwriters in the music industry, no? So it's normal, I understand. But I think your suggestion, Simon, there is recycle content. No? Like there's many efficient ways that you can do this, no? And I'm sure like Patricia and Ignacio, like you have access to a lot of content that the artist probably doesn't even think about that can be useful, no?
I think that the key here is to have the artist create a lot of content while creating the release or the content of the release, like the track. For me, that's the key, because that's when they're going to be creative, for that release, specifically. So for me, that's part of the key, because after the release, I can't ask an artist, they're already thinking on the next step. So to tell them, hey, you have to go to some TikToks or whatever for the track released a month ago. Yeah. They're going to be like, hey, my head is already doing, like...
Yeah, a track that was released a month ago that probably was created a year ago, no?
Exactly.
Like, don't ask me to talk about...
A year ago or 2 years ago, even.
Or who knows?
It depends. But for me, that's also key, like to create content while still in the process of creating that release or that specific EP, album, or whatever.
Okay. So I saw Sara laughing before, and I think you know what question I want to ask. When Simon was talking about people deleting accounts, I'm not going to ask you for names because, again, these can get contentious, but can you tell a bit more about how can things go wrong if you delete your account?
Things can go really wrong. Imagine that you are like bored at your house or hotel room, wherever, and suddenly you decide that, remember your Gmail account that you used when you were like a teenager? Probably not useful anymore, okay? So I'm gonna just delete it. And the next day, I woke up at like 6:30 a.m. with like 15 calls from a random number. Like basically, a channel was off. It was down. Suddenly, with no explanation, it was a huge channel. And the reason was that maybe that Gmail account was a little bit important because it was linked to the YouTube channel account. So sometimes we don't realize that, we use the same kind of credentials for the Gmail or Google accounts and YouTube. So if you delete your Gmail account, it can go wrong. It can go really wrong. But yeah, what Simon was saying before, like accesses. Like today, for example, I got already 2 questions around this. Like, hey, I don't remember the Gmail, or like I have a branded account, but I don't know which account is linked to it. Or I need to give access, or I need to upload a video and I don't even have access, or my account was hacked. What do I do? Well, as you mentioned, enable 2-factor authentication. Please remember your Gmail account and check it out and make sure that your artists don't delete it. Yeah.
As funny as that email account that you created when you were a teenager may sound, no?
Don't delete it.
You need to
it doesn't matter how stupid it is.
Keep it. Keep everything.
Yeah, just keep it.
I wanted to ask again more Patricia and Ignacio. Any more drama stories that you can share about releases going that you can remember?
All kind, I think. what Patricia was saying, changing the track list. I think she said before, the same week.
Yes, and especially if we're going to release the album physically as well. Maybe you should think about that.
It has been
Like a
printed,
lot.
no?
Yeah, it has been printed. That has happened.
And what do you do?
You have to
Right.
Well,
yep,
for the
try a
physical
little bit.
album, you have to send all the assets like months before.
Yeah.
If you want to release the same date as a digital album, but
Hmm.
in a digital album, it's not that difficult to modify. But
You have vinyl
You-
or
Vinyl,
regular
yeah.
CDs or whatever.
Vinyl
You have
is-
to destroy everything, press it for new, and for that you need like 4 months in advance, between 4 months and 3 months or something. So yeah, that kind of thing has happened.
I guess we need info. The distributor, I think, the whole commercial department from a label or a major label, whatever, Universal, Sony, Warner, context of the release. Sometimes, like a rapper or a urban, it's because of all these genres, like kind of these people that they don't send you the info and you don't have anything to sell. Actually, you can distribute with DistroKid if you want, because if I cannot tell anything about the release.
Meaning context around
Yeah, like,
information about the track
yeah,
or anything.
that if what Simon was saying, if you need that like 2 weeks at least before the release, but if they send you the info like 2 days before, you cannot do anything.
And I mean, I want to jump in on also like not only the info, but like if you want to protect your track from leaks, as I said before.
I stopped you before on that one, so
Sorry?
I stopped you before on that one, so what?
Can I?
Please.
What I was going to say before is that that if you actually want to protect your artist or your album from leaking, even if it's sent by WhatsApp and people start uploading it, maybe you can stop it on WhatsApp, but at least on YouTube, if you send it to Content ID, that is our copyright tool, internal tool. If you send it there, we can actually avoid leaks in the platform because every single video will be scanned, and if the track is already there, it should not be leaked.
That's a good thing from YouTube, not the Spotify.
So
Well,
basically,
you know,
because for some reason it's only YouTube in the panel and not Spotify, no?
Yeah.
Hi Magali, I don't know if you're there much. So basically what you were saying is that you can send the music to the platform even if it's not going to be available, but
Yeah,
we
that's
use
right.
it, right? We will use it to
Yeah.
scan if anybody uploads it and it will block
Yes.
it.
yeah,
before it's
exactly.
released,
So
right?
we need the music in advance in order to avoid leaks. So it will not be public, but it will be blocking possible leaks, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
And now anybody from the audience that wants to share some misery
Drama?
of releases going south that we can all learn from?
I think
No
it's a
one? No
question
one had?
there.
Yeah, there's one there. We
I
don't
don't
see
see
anything.
you, sorry. If you can raise your hand, I don't see you.
See
where you
there.
are. Oh, okay, now yes.
Hello, thank you so much for the talk. I have a question. I work at a distributor, and I'm also a hobbyist artist, but just on my free time. And I don't understand why there is such a big rush to release like today or tomorrow or in 2 or 3 days, since we know that, for example, for playlist pitching, you're gonna need more time than that so that the DSPs can consider your tracks. So if you want also to prepare all of the content that you're gonna put out there to market this song, you're gonna need time to work on that. So from your perspective, what happens on the artist side for them to want the track to go in air today?
I think it's more of a peer pressure thing or a society pressure thing. Like the industry is going so fast lately that I feel like artists feel also pressured to be constantly releasing things, not to be forgotten or to be present, in the different playlisting and stuff like that. I think there's like two different kind of artists in that way. There's artists that, their performance is really like based on singles and remixes and stuff like that. And then there's artists that are more of a strategy thing or they work on an album and not just on a single. So I think for those kind of artists that do feel that pressure, it's more basically because of the wanting to be present, like the whole time there. Like to be present every week in different playlists and just to have a lot of releases going on the whole time. But I think that's basically because of, what I was saying, pressure that they put themselves into. But it's not, I haven't really felt in any of the different projects I work at, the pressure from the label or whatever to release fast, because labels usually want to have time to work the release. So it usually comes from the artist, this kind of rush.
What about, I got a question. Sorry. I know that's your job, but like, let me jump in. Because, I mean, in this world where like there's lots of, short form and lots of testing out songs before they're actually being released, like sped up versions, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then once they get traction, a lot of times I work with artists that are like, hey, we see there's X amount of creations now on TikTok, on Reels, whatever. And then they want to release it quickly. Like, does that happen too? Like, is that a problem for you guys too sometimes? No. Or that's when you already know you're gonna have it's gonna be good. You don't need to
have creations,
work
it's working.
or you need to sell it as much.
Exactly. If the song is already working.
You've done something before the release. Actually, it's not like you have done a.
That's true. I'm sorry.
If that actually happens, I would be the one pressuring the label or the distributor to release the song as fast as possible. If the song is already working or there's already something happening, I'll be the first one pressuring it there.
How do you realize that this is happening? Do you check? Like, it's
yes.
like just going to trends? Okay.
It's like checking trends, or if people are sharing it a lot, or if you see, like influencers or whatever sharing the track or doing some TikToks on it or whatever.
Usually the artist or the manager tells you that it's going viral, and viral is something that what's viral.
No. Okay.
So that's we usually benchmark those viral things and see if it's something or not. Because if you have like 100 creations, it's not viral. It's relaxed.
Okay, it's like okay.
No.
Thanks for the question. You tricked us. That was not a bad experience, but you'll have time for more questions. Anybody else that wants to share anything that we can learn? Okay, so I would like to know what is that you're going to do in your next release that you have not been doing until now, and that the audience could learn something from as well. We can start from Patricia.
Okay.
Anything that you're going to do in a different way?
For me, what I think it's really working right now, or at least I see it makes a difference, is to create specific content for the different platforms. Mm-hmm. So I think that's something that we should include in the creation of all the content for the release. Specific content for specific platforms. Like, for example, doing an acoustic version for Amazon, or a live session for YouTube or whatever. I think that works a lot. That's working lately because every platform has its own identity and they want to have like exclusive stuff. So I think that should be also considered while on the working of the whole content of her release.
So basically you try to engage in different ways with different platforms, or?
Yes, exactly. Okay. To be more specific, like for example, TikTok needs a really different, it's the content that it needs is completely different from the content in YouTube, for example.
That's for sure. That's interesting, yeah, because I would have gone the opposite route, kind of to make it smoother. Because again, we often, well, I guess it depends also on the artist and how active they are.
Yeah.
But my first instinct would have been, let's make it as easy as possible for the artist to be able to engage. So not ask them for a dedicated content strategy. But I guess also depends on where you are in your career, right? If you're a newcomer artist, exactly. You don't have the bandwidth, you have a small team, you don't have a lot of content shoots, whatever, you're doing a lot of like DIY, try to maximize the things that you have, that you've already been doing. And on that, I'm guessing more on that side of thing as well is, and that's probably something I shouldn't say out loud, but I'm gonna do it anyway, quantity over quality. Again, it's always better to do something on YouTube than nothing, and it's better to do more things than just one single thing. If you have budget and you spend everything on just one sick video or sick content, that's going to be great, but it might be more economical for YouTube or for the platforms to spread that budget out and create more pieces of content to be able to activate on YouTube a little bit more.
So are you suggesting people to put a lot of garbage? No, I'm kidding. But no, I think I heard you in the past, Simon, explain like how you don't need to spend millions. I think just to reinforce on what you're saying, you don't necessarily need to spend millions in your productions. You could if you have the budget, but like I think it's related to something that you were saying also, Patricia, before, which is maybe you can take the chance of a studio session and to do a behind-the-scenes video that is way cheaper to produce, and then you can create a long-form video and like a handful of shorts that are going to be equally engaging, no? And at the end of the day, the same pressure that the artists have of releasing is also from the consumer side. Like people are just scrolling, no? So like they're not even going to pay attention many times for certain things, right? So I think I would take that with a positive mindset, which is like you can create a lot of quality content without necessarily dedicating all your efforts on a single piece that is going to be much harder for that to reach any repercussion, right?
100%. And I think you see that a lot. Is like, I mean, if you look at the content that is going viral, it's getting a lot of traction. It's often not the highly produced, well-produced content. It's the spontaneous one. It's the real one, the authentic one. That sometimes it's just I'm singing in the kitchen on my phone, and this thing is going through the roof, and not the BBC One Live Lounge session or something like this. You know.
Yeah, but I guess that depends on how you measure quality. No, it's not necessarily the production quality, but it has
value,
originality, it has commercial value. Right? Yeah, that's a fair point. So I love your comment, but you didn't answer the question, which is what is that you are going to do next, different in the next release that in this case you're supporting that you were not doing until now.
Me?
Yes.
I thought I answered it. Sorry. No, because I'm not you. You know, I'm more on a consultant advisory role because I tell artists or recommend artists and their managements and their teams what would be most beneficial to succeed on YouTube, and that would be do more on YouTube.
Okay, fair enough.
But to make it easier for you, recycle your content. Okay. Right? Sorry.
Now you answer. Thank you, Sam.
I mean, I think that I'm in the same side. So for me, it's not like me releasing music, but more like what I will do if I was you in the next release. And I'm going to go back to the metadata side. I think nowadays it's more and more important, the artist IDs, that I don't know if you know about it, but basically identifier for an artist. Now we are like requesting this or like encouraging distributors and labels to send it, mainly because it will avoid the random like a video appearing in a random channel that is not your artist channel, or like attributing some tracks to an artist that it might be called the same, but not the same artist. Like there are more than 13 Ed Sheerans. Like, you know, sometimes it's difficult. They might have the same name. So I think that will be one part of the metadata I will do nowadays. And the second one is like make sure you include all the songwriters and all the publishing information when you are sending this to the label or distributor.
Okay. Yeah. Since Simon was a participant is asking questions, and I'm supposed to be only asking questions, but I love the topic, so I'm going to say my piece there, which is 100% agree. And we were talking again in a different panel before they were talking about value gap and about how things get lost in translation and on the way. And I think, in a way, I see metadata here as the water that flows through those pipes.
Yeah.
And if you don't make sure that that's correct, there's going to be leaks. No?
Yeah.
You were making an emphasis on artist identifiers.
Well, songwriters identifiers too, yeah.
Ideally,
we're
a bit farther away from there, but I think as a platform, something we make a lot of emphasis is, and something that usually explained in a very simple way is like, the artist puts a lot of effort on creation, and they will be very many, or maybe many don't, but they will put a lot of effort on making sure that the artwork is correct and so on and so forth, but many times not so much effort is put on making sure that the metadata, which is that descriptive text that comes along with the release, is accurate also, no? And maybe from a creative perspective, it's like,
more boring,
again, like this is boring. So it's fine. Like if you're an artist and you don't want to take care about that, that's fine. Something I was saying before is like, it's fine that you do, but find someone that does for you. Yeah. It's fine if you're a small artist, probably you don't have any other chance than doing it yourself because nobody's going to do it for you. But if you have a big team, or it depends on where you're in your career, find someone who's passionate about that and who understands. Because otherwise, what it could happen is that from a release perspective, I guess, like, you schedule the release for tomorrow, or not tomorrow, next month, and maybe it doesn't come next month because the date is wrong, right?
We have seen that. We have seen like some tracks getting released before because they set up the timing wrong. So they're like, hey, my track is up. And it's like, yeah, you set it up for today.
Yeah, and the 00, what is 00? Is it Wednesday night? Is it Thursday?
Yeah.
Like,
That's an issue, eh?
well,
Yeah.
Most people don't know that.
Yeah, they don't.
Like we are releasing on Thursday. That's Wednesday night, not Thursday night. That's Friday. People doesn't know that.
No.
Does that happen a lot?
A lot.
A lot.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's from the release perspective. But the part that I'm more passionate about also is, and that's what I do also, that's why I'm passionate about it, is like from a royalty collection perspective, that's also what is going to guarantee that the moment that you release it out and everything that happens after, no, like someone was saying, if you don't do anything in the platform, you're not going to have engagement. Well, if you don't do anything on your release and put in the right metadata there, chances are of you getting paid diminish. Up to the point that maybe you don't get paid for certain things. No.
Yeah.
Artist identifiers. My personal battle is for songwriters. Like if you're an artist but you're also a songwriter, or you know who are the songwriters that were contributing to your song, please write those. It's probably not going to be mandatory. Like your label or your distributor is probably not going to ask for it. But when your publishers or collecting societies are trying to figure out what is the song that you register that has been commercially made available, that's going to help tremendously.
But also, like in the app, and like in the apps, and like all the music streaming apps, if someone is listening to the track and they can see the credits, it's kind of good to give the credits to the people who contribute to,
from an
to the
attribution
track.
perspective,
So you know, that's quite important too.
Sorry, that was my parenthesis. Now, Ignacio, what would you do? The question was, just as a reminder, what would you do different in your life?
Relax, take a bath, and I don't know.
Relax?
Yeah, for me, I mean. No, but I don't know, like suggesting new contents, it depends on the release, I guess. Every platform gives you new tools every day, so explain those tools to the label or the artist so they can implement those. But we already do that in ADA.
ADA is the best.
Work with ADA, you know? No marketing. Okay. Since we are reaching out time, I wanted to hear, before we open the floor to questions from the public, which is a phrase or a word to take away from today's discussion.
Two-step verification.
Just
Two-step
the
verification.
Just two factors. Are you choosing that one?
Factor authentication.
No, so like if you wanna give something to our audience here so that they can take away home, what would that be? It can be a word, it can be a short phrase.
For me, would be timing.
Timing.
Timing is key on a release. Timing, and to build a strategy with time. That for me is the key.
Okay. Simon.
I'm trying to think of a good phrase, but basically, you're always gonna make mistakes. There's so many things that can go wrong because there's so many people and so many things involved. Half the things you guys were talking about, I didn't even know. And yeah, make the mistakes, communicate openly with the partners involved, and then most of the times you're able to actually find a fix. You find a solution most of the times, and if not, learn from it. And you know, because it's always it's like trial and error. Like we're all flying blindly at some point every now and then. So I think it's totally fine, and just like keep it up.
So open and honest communication.
Open and honest communication, and don't be afraid to actually try some stuff and make a mistake. It's not, the world's not ending.
Or to ask. Don't be afraid of asking.
Or
Yeah,
to ask. Don't be afraid to ask.
And if you make a mistake, communicate it.
Yeah.
I've had a few of those issues at times.
People will tend to hide it, no? So that,
Yeah.
Yeah, if you start communicating, I don't mean to go off topic, but I have, for instance, one moment where we had invested in a live session that we wanted to stream. It was done. We wanted to market it with marketing, and everything was set for the actual album release. And we wanted to do for the marketing, which was very important for the whole thing. We wanted to, promote everything to that certain day. The math that I did not take into account is at the time it was November, so that's Thanksgiving in the US, and marketing for us a lot of times happens in the US. So all of a sudden, the deadline that I thought we had was gone because I had like a whole Thanksgiving weekend, and we couldn't make that day. So I then picked up the phone and told my artist, I'm so sorry, but I did not know that. I mean, I should have, but I forgot there was Thanksgiving, and then they were like, no problem, we're just gonna move everything. So they actually moved their album release and everything,
Yeah.
and no harm, no foul. No one was unhappy, everyone was still happy. So sometimes when you think there's no way out, there actually is.
But that's because you're a nice guy. And
I try to be.
no, but I think the point being there to be not afraid to be vulnerable in a way, no? And you need to have a safe environment. And many times not everybody has the advantage or the luxury even to have a safe environment on being open about those mistakes. But I guess that pays for if you have a healthy communication and a healthy environment, then you can just say, yeah, babe, my bad, can we fix this, right? It's going to explode any other way, somehow. So, yeah. Sara?
For me, I think is don't forget about metadata and don't delete your teenager Gmail account.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And Ignacio?
I guess communicate and make team with your distributor. So you can give context of our release like in a few sentences. Make it easy for us, for DSPs, for everyone. Because DSPs receive, as I said, thousands of singles every week. Make it easy for them too.
Fair enough. Before I go to the audience and ask, is there anything else that I didn't ask that you want to share? Metadata. Anything, guys? Is there? No?
No.
Any question over there? I don't see again, sorry.
There are some questions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
there are
some
some
questions.
questions
If there
there.
are questions, please, now is your moment.
Hi, I will ask to, like, I always heard that releasing on Friday 00 is really important for editorial playlisting and all that stuff. But for like small artists that maybe publishing on another day, that there's less competence, or maybe if they are Instagram reliant on that marketing, like how important for them is to release on that day, and maybe if it's worthwhile to move that day if they get like another benefits.
But you mean for Spotify, right?
Yeah, probably. Like I'm thinking about like in
Like
the Spanish
80%.
market. Okay, sorry.
But because it doesn't care, doesn't matter if you release on a Monday. You can get to New Music Friday for that week anyway. It's important to release on the before Friday because of the algorithm the release radar and everything. You have to do the algorithmic beats through Spotify for Artists. You have to do that before Friday. But it doesn't matter. You can release a Tuesday if you want.
Any other comments over here?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's always. I'm not going to give a great answer here, but like it's always dependent on your audience as well, right? So if I think about, for one of the artists I work with, Arlo Parks, who great in the indie scene, you know, beautiful songwriting, big fan. She tends to release her music on a Wednesday, right? Not necessarily on a Friday. That also comes together with the fact that you have the hottest record of the week in the UK and the BBC. So there's many different factors that come into play. But she still always releases on a Wednesday. That's just her day, and it's also her fan base is now kind of conditioned to know that it's coming out that. But she still gets into the playlists, right? And whether it's ours or whether it's Spotify's playlist. So I think it's worth experimenting on trying, see how it pans out, because it's not a definite no. It's not like, no, don't do it. It's like, try it and see what happens.
I think like this thing about releasing on Fridays is something that was done 20 years ago or something.
Yes.
It's
Not
like,
even so long. I think.
No, there wasn't.
No, it
Well,
wasn't.
No, because
Yes.
it actually changed. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
on Tuesdays,
It was on
and then
Tuesday,
it
Tuesday,
changed
yeah.
to Fridays.
And videos
Thursday
were
to
released
Friday.
like on 10 a.m.
Exactly.
On Fridays, right?
Yes.
I mean, if I remember well, the origin, and again, I may say something stupid, so apologies in advance. But I think the reason was that music was commercially made available in stores at a certain day, and that was an industry agreement. And then eventually this changed. So to your question, and I probably repeat a little bit what my friends here answered, but I would say it has its pros and its cons. And there are industry established timings that you probably will go against. Charts, for example, being one, like the official, I'm not talking about our platform charts, we're talking like official country charts of the
Yes, that's-
IFPI. That usually has a certain time frame. So if you release somewhere that is not there, you probably
Yeah.
Yes.
being penalized. in a way, because you will have less chances to accumulate plays for that week. So if your goal is to make it into the chart, probably you need to abide by the rules. But if you do like Simon advises Arlo Parks, well, then you don't care about the charts, you probably can get other benefits, no? So I guess is understand what are your pros and your cons and understand the consequences of doing it, but be creative. If you want to release on a Sunday afternoon because your audience listens to your music after lunch on Sundays, well, maybe that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Games like release it on Sunday this week.
I think the most important thing here is to know your audience, who is listening to you, and if they're used to listening, like usual artists that release on Friday, or if they're going to take the time to listen to your track if you release it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or whatever. So know your audience.
Yeah.
100%. One mistake that can be made, though, while we're on the topic, is doesn't matter when you release your track, but when you release it, make sure you release your music video the same day.
Or before.
That's a little bit, I'm just saying, it happens a lot that it's not, oftentimes the track comes out on Friday and then the music video out on Monday or a
Not
week
a good
after.
idea.
And it's always best to release it the same day because you're going to get a lot of traffic and traction, especially over the first weekend.
Yeah, and you
get a new Music Friday playlist.
You avoid the art track.
Well, yeah, the thing is like...
But you want all the views on your music video where you spend the money with your artistic expression, right?
Explain that to Bad Bunny.
On another day.
Any other question from our audience? I think we still have time.
I think there's one
There's
there.
one more there. Yeah.
Sorry.
Or two.
The lights blind me. There's 3. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we don't see him.
Similar to how you were talking about with the cold YouTube channel, do you feel like there's a benefit to warming up your Spotify and Apple Music, like with I don't know, a marketing campaign to your previous music before a release? Is there like an algorithm benefit?
Like using the pre-save, for example. Yeah, nobody does pre-saves.
You can also do it in YouTube.
Yeah, no. On Amazon, I think, no. But
Spotify.
usually people do pre-save for Spotify. It helps to have, when you release the track, to have those users the track already saved. But you have to give an incentive to do so, because nobody cares about.
Yeah.
Yes, you can give them like early access to watch the video,
like
or
merch
early access, or
something.
or at least something. But give them something.
Something in exchange, but it helps.
Exactly.
At least in Spotify, I think Apple Music it's nothing. But I don't
But
know.
it helps a lot with, for example, in Spotify, it helps a lot with plays afterwards. With how many plays you get on the first day of the release, pre-save. I mean,
Might help, yeah.
yeah.
Any other?
Hi. Have any of you ever worked with artists who are maybe a little social media averse? And what was your experience with marketing or releasing a track or an album without the help of social media?
Difficult.
there are a few of those.
Yeah.
But you cannot change that because it's the way they are. Sometimes it's what it is. You can explain what they can do with social media, but if they don't want to, you cannot force them to do anything, because if you force them, they're gonna do it the wrong way.
Yeah, and the content is going to be
it's
like
not gonna
totally
be useful.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Sometimes it's part of the narrative from an artist to be like very mysterious and everything. No.
I mean, we've worked on a few of those, with a few of these kind of artists together. I think personally that's more in the responsibility of the DSPs, or the ones that do the marketing. And I'm putting myself here in the spotlight, that we find ways. Because oftentimes if you do a marketing campaign, it's tied to certain deliverables. And not every artist wants to deliver these kind of the content that the DSPs, or I say YouTube, has in mind. So, and it's, not that the artist wants to work with us. It's also that we want to work with the artist.
Exactly.
And that shouldn't be forgotten. So we also need to bring certain amount of level of flexibility to the table, so that we can collaborate with these artists and respect their their identity and the way they want to work.
Credibility. It's like if you
It's just
if
not
you
that
don't
easy,
if you don't want to
unfortunately.
share the billboard in Miami, it's okay because you may lose your credibility as an artist if you like share Amazon Music, Spotify, YouTube, or whatever. You have to understand the artist.
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
That's for you, for DSPs to understand that too.
I'll take notes. I'll bring it back to the US.
Don't chase me with this.
Do we have any other question? I think
One more. I think we have only for one more.
one more question,
Yeah.
probably.
As we are talking too much about the metadata, but the thing is, how could you control if that the metadata is right, if there are more than 100 stores and you cannot see if it's possible to see if the metadata is okay? For example, if you're in Spain, you cannot see if the metadata is okay in Line, if it's okay in QQ, if it's okay in Claro, if it's okay in Boomplay, or other stores which are not available in your territory. At the same time, in platforms like YouTube Music, for example, you cannot have something like Spotify or Apple Music or Amazon Music for Artists where you could check the metadata or the information of your profile. You just need to go to the distributor needs to go to YouTube Music, which it takes many times, and many times also have some mistakes. So how could you control that?
Yeah. Okay. I don't think I can answer on the other stores. I mean, you can always use VPNs and try to check it out.
Yeah, but sometimes it not work. I try with Claro and TikTok Music
Yeah.
and Line, and it's impossible.
I mean, as I said, I cannot really speak about other stores. But on the YouTube side of things, yeah, you can actually check the metadata. There are different ways of doing so. If you have access to the channel, you can actually see your releases in the channel. So you can actually see this. And you can double check this before it gets released. And also, obviously, you can check with the distributor if they have access to the art track site. So yeah, there are actually ways of checking this in the same way that you have in Spotify. So we have the official artist channels, and in your channel itself, in the releases section, you should be able to double check before it gets released. And that's why I was saying like the artist ID is super important, and trying to send the metadata before, because you can actually double check, and we have had issues where they reported this before it got released.
Yeah, but that could work, for example, for a single artist. But why if you work in a label, for example, you have
Yeah.
50 artists?
Yeah, you can actually, so you can use, I don't know if you know what an API is, or like even on the, so we have something called the CMS, the Content Management System for the labels. You can actually go and get all the releases and download the reports, and you can double check there. So you can actually double check that in like bulk, if that makes any sense, before it gets released.
Okay, better to check it out later because actually it's complicated to ask
it's
that,
not-
and the distributors does not put easy to get it. That's the problem with that.
Because we don't have it easy too, neither. Sorry, because there are no
throwing us under the
there are no back offices for every platform.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you set up the metadata on your back office of the distributor, like when you're programming the release, it should get well on DSPs.
It does not work very well.
It depends on the
had a
DSP.
ton of problems. I could stay 2 hours talking about
Okay.
this, to be honest.
Let's meet later.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we are out of time, but I'd like to thank you, our panelists today here, and all of you for listening and asking questions. So thank you very much. I hope you learned
Thank
something.
you, everyone.